The blue planet sat quietly in space, spinning slowly around its yellow star. For 3,000 years, eyes had been watching it from the darkness. Hidden ships floated in the cold space between planets, their metal hulls painted black to hide from any curious eyes below. Commander Veltar stood in the control room of the largest watching ship. His tall, thin body cast a long shadow on the metal floor. His people had been watching the humans longer than anyone else. They were the first to notice something strange about the small creatures walking around on that blue world. "Sir," Captain Nixall called from her station. Her voice carried worry. "The humans have done it again." Veltar walked over to look at the screens. Numbers and pictures flashed across them, showing what was happening on Earth below. A human city glowed with new light. The humans had built another power station, but this one was different. It was cleaner and stronger than anything they had made before. "How long did this take them?" Veltar asked. 5 of their years, sir," Nixall replied. "Their technology grows faster each time we look." Veltar felt a chill run through his body. His people had taken 500 years to develop the same kind of power. The humans did it in 5. This was not normal. This was not safe. Across the solar system, other ships watched too. The hegemony had sent their best watchers. The Council had placed hidden stations on dead rocks floating in space. Every major power in the galaxy wanted to know what the humans would do next. Dr. Morgan worked in her lab on the Council station. She was the best at studying new life forms. Her job was to understand what made humans so different from everyone else. The answer scared her. She looked at her notes again. Human brains were not like other brains. They could change and grow in ways that should not be possible. When humans learned something new, their brains actually rebuilt themselves to be better at that task. Other species learned slowly, carefully, safely. Humans learned like they were on fire. Impossible, she whispered to herself, but the data did not lie. On Earth, Park Hyun sat in his small lab in Seoul. He did not know that alien eyes watched his every move. He was trying to solve a problem that had puzzled humans for years. How could they travel to other stars? Park Hyun was 28 years old. He had black hair and wore thick glasses that made his eyes look bigger. His lab was messy, with papers and strange machines everywhere. Coffee cups sat on every surface, some still warm, others growing cold and forgotten. He had been working for 3 days without sleep. His friends told him this was crazy, but Park Hyun felt he was close to something important. Very important. "The math is right," he said to himself, looking at equations written on a whiteboard. "Space can be bent. Time can be stretched. We just need enough power." Miles above his head, the watching ships recorded every word. In New York, Kim Yuna worked in a different kind of lab. She studied living things, trying to understand how they worked and how to fix them when they broke. She was 32 years old, with long black hair that she kept tied back while she worked. Kim Yuna had just made a discovery that would change everything. She found a way to stop human cells from getting old and dying. Not just slow it down, stop it completely. Humans could live forever if her research was right. She looked through her microscope at the tiny cells. They looked young and healthy, even though they should have been old and dead by now. She had given them something that reset their internal clocks. "This will change the world," she whispered. High above, alien computers recorded her words and sent them to the Council. Emergency meetings were called. Species that had lived for thousands of years suddenly felt very worried about humans who might live forever. The Watchers had rules about when to make contact with new species. Usually they waited until a species was ready. They looked for signs of wisdom, peace, and slow, careful growth. Humans showed none of these things. Humans grew fast. They fought wars while they also made beautiful art. They created weapons that could destroy their world while also making medicine that could heal terrible diseases. They were like children playing with fire, dangerous and unpredictable. Admiral Kethix read the daily reports in his command ship. Every day humans did something new. Every day they came closer to leaving their planet and traveling to the stars. Every day they became more dangerous. They split atoms for power and weapons in the same century they learned to fly, he told his officers. They put computers in their pockets while they still fight wars with sticks and stones. "What kind of species does this?" His officers had no answer. In all their history, no species had ever developed so unevenly, so quickly, so dangerously. The worst part was that humans seemed to enjoy danger. Other species avoided risk and change. Humans ran toward it like it was a game. They climbed mountains because they were tall. They dove deep into oceans because they were dark. They sent machines to other planets just to see what was there. Back on Earth, Park Hyun finally fell asleep at his desk. His equations were almost finished. In a few more days, he would have the answer to faster-than-light travel. He did not know that his work was being copied by dozens of alien computers. Kim Yuna carefully stored her samples and locked her lab. Tomorrow she would test her discovery on larger subjects. She did not know that her research was already being discussed in emergency sessions across the galaxy. The two humans slept peacefully while above them. An entire galaxy held its breath. The Watchers knew that humanity was approaching a moment that would change everything. Soon, very soon, humans would reach for the stars. And when they did, nothing would ever be the same again. The accident happened on a Tuesday. Dr. Lee Jun had been working on Park Hyun's equations for 6 months. He built a small test ship in a secret facility in the mountains of Korea. The ship was only as big as a car, but it contained the most advanced technology humans had ever created. Lee Jun was 41 years old and had spent his whole life dreaming of the stars. He had worked with rockets and satellites, always pushing to go faster, go further. When he saw Park Hyun's equations, he knew they were the key to everything. The test was supposed to be simple. Turn on the new engine for 1 second. See if space bent around the ship like the math said it would. If it worked, the ship would move a few miles instantly. If it failed, nothing would happen. Kim Mira sat in the pilot seat of the tiny ship. She was 29 years old and the best pilot in the Korean space program. She was not afraid of dying, but she was terrified of being forgotten. This test would make sure no one ever forgot her name. All systems ready, she said into her radio. Starting the countdown, Lee Jun replied from the control room. 10, 9, 8. In the darkness above Earth, every watching ship turned their sensors toward the test site. They knew something was about to happen. Their computers had been tracking the humans' work for months. 3, 2, 1, start. Kim Mira pressed the button. Space twisted around the little ship like water swirling down a drain. Reality bent and folded in ways that hurt to look at. The ship disappeared. Lee Jun stared at his screens in shock. The ship was gone. Not destroyed, gone. His instruments showed nothing where the ship had been just a moment before. Mira, he shouted into his radio. Mira, can you hear me? Silence. 40 light years away, near a red star called Wolf 359, space twisted again. The little ship appeared in a flash of light that could be seen from 3 solar systems away. Kim Mira looked out her window at stars she had never seen before. Oh, she whispered. Then louder, oh no. Her radio crackled to life, but the voices were different. They spoke in languages she had never heard. Her instruments detected dozens of ships nearby, ships that were definitely not human. The alien watchers at Wolf 359 could not believe what they were seeing. A human ship had appeared from nowhere, traveling faster than light in a way that should not be possible. Their own ships needed days to make the same journey. The humans had done it in less than a second. Kim Mira was scared but not stupid. She quickly figured out that her radio was picking up alien signals. She was not alone in the universe, and she was very, very far from home. She did what any human would do. She started taking pictures and recording everything. For 6 hours, she drifted in space near Wolf 359, listening to alien voices and watching their ships. They seemed to be watching her too, but they did not attack. They just observed, like scientists studying a new kind of animal. Then Kim Mira did something that surprised everyone, including herself. She used Park Hyun's equations in reverse. She pointed her ship toward Earth and pressed the button again. Space twisted. The ship vanished. Seconds later, it appeared back in Earth's atmosphere, right where it had started. Lee Jun was crying when he saw the ship return.
He had thought his friend was dead.
Instead, she landed the ship safely and climbed out with a smile on her face. June, she said, we are not alone, and we can travel anywhere we want. The data from Kim Mira's accidental journey changed everything. Within days, every government on Earth knew that aliens existed, and that humans could now travel to the stars. Within weeks, plans were made for real exploration missions. The alien watchers held emergency meetings that lasted for months. The humans had developed faster-than-light travel in a completely new way. Their method was simpler, faster, and more efficient than anything the galaxy had ever seen. Park Soo was chosen to lead the first real human mission to another star. He was 35 years old and had led many space missions before. He was calm under pressure and smart enough to handle anything they might find out there. His ship was bigger than Kim Mira's test vehicle. It carried a crew of 12 and enough supplies to explore for months. They called it the New Dawn, and it was the most beautiful thing humans had ever built. The mission launched on a bright morning in spring. Millions of people on Earth watched as the New Dawn disappeared in a flash of bent light. The ship reappeared near Alpha Centauri, humanity's closest neighbor star. What they found there changed everything again. The Centauri system was not empty. Ancient machines floated in the darkness between the planets. They had been there for thousands of years, watching, recording, waiting. They were watchers left by the Council, and now they were watching humans. Park Soo ordered his crew to be careful. They approached the machines slowly, peacefully. They sent radio signals in mathematics, the universal language that all intelligent species should understand. The machines answered. For the first time in human history, people from Earth had a conversation with intelligence from another world. It was brief and formal, but it was real. The machines told the humans that they were being watched, that they were being studied, and that they were not alone. When the New Dawn returned to Earth, everything changed forever. Within 2 years, humans had built colonies on 3 different planets. They used their fast travel technology to move people, supplies, and equipment across vast distances in seconds. They explored systems that other species needed months to reach. The alien watchers became more worried every day. Humans were spreading across space faster than any species in galactic history. They built cities on worlds that should have been impossible to live on. They changed planets to suit their needs instead of changing themselves to suit the planets. More frightening was how quickly humans learned. Every new world taught them something new about survival, about technology, about life itself. They shared this knowledge freely among themselves, making their entire species smarter with each discovery. Commander Veltar read the reports with growing alarm. In just 2 years, humans had gone from one world to dozens. They had met alien technology and learned from it. They were asking questions about who was watching them and why. "Sir," Captain Nixal said, "we have detected human ships at the edge of controlled space. They appear to be investigating." Veltar closed his eyes. The moment he had feared for 3,000 years was finally arriving. Soon humans would find the Watchers, and when they did, the galaxy would never be the same. 6 months after first contact, the galaxy was falling apart. It started with the trade routes. Human merchant Kang Ho had arrived at Nexus Station with a cargo ship full of impossible goods. His fusion batteries lasted 10 times longer than anything the galaxy had seen. His medical supplies could cure diseases that had killed millions for centuries. His computers were small enough to hold in one hand but more powerful than entire planets. Kang Ho was 34 years old and had been a trader on Earth before humans reached the stars. He understood markets, supply chains, and what people needed. When he saw the galactic economy, he knew he could do better. "Your prices are crazy," he told the station masters through his translator. "These medicines cost almost nothing to make. Your people are dying because you charge too much." Within weeks, Kang Ho had set up trade agreements with dozens of worlds. He sold advanced human goods at prices so low that traditional traders could not compete. Entire economic systems that had existed for thousands of years collapsed overnight. The Council tried to stop him, but it was too late. Other human traders had followed Kang Ho's example. They spread across the galaxy, offering better goods at lower prices. More importantly, they offered something the galaxy had almost forgotten: hope. Dr. Yoon Soo made the medical breakthrough that terrified every galactic government. She was 28 years old and had spent her life studying diseases. When she saw the alien plague records, she was horrified. Billions of beings had died from illnesses that humans could cure easily. "This plague has been killing people for 300 years, she told her research team on the human medical ship Mercy. "We can stop it in 3 days. The hegemony had used biological weapons to control rebellious worlds for generations. They created diseases and then sold expensive treatments that helped but never cured. It kept entire populations weak and dependent. Dr. Yoon Soo did not care about galactic politics. She cared about sick people. She landed her medical ship on plague worlds without permission, and began curing everyone she could find. The results were miraculous. Beings who had been dying for years suddenly became healthy and strong. Children who had never known life without pain ran and played for the first time. Entire worlds that had been weak and helpless became healthy and hopeful. But the real revolution started with the questions. Human scientist Kim did not just cure diseases. She taught alien doctors how to cure them too. She shared all her knowledge freely, explaining every technique and method. "Why do you charge people to save their lives?" she asked the hegemony medical officers. "Why do you keep cures secret? Why do you let people die when you know how to save them?" The question spread faster than any plague. On worlds across the galaxy, people began asking why their governments hoarded knowledge, why they charged high prices for things that cost little to make, why they kept their people weak and ignorant. The Council's intelligence reports painted a picture of total system failure. General Thekran read the latest updates with growing horror. Human explorer Kim Yu had discovered and published detailed records of Council manipulation. Documents that proved the Council had deliberately kept younger species from developing advanced technology. Evidence that they had caused wars, famines, and plagues to control population growth. "Sir," his aide reported, "we have revolution on 47 worlds. The rebels are using human weapons and human tactics. Our traditional forces cannot stop them." This was the Council's worst nightmare. They had maintained control through superior technology and information control. The humans had given rebels access to both. Human weapons were simple to build but devastatingly effective. More importantly, humans taught military strategy in ways that made sense. They did not just give rebels better guns, they taught them how to think like soldiers. Ambassador Park Si stood before the Emergency Council session with calm confidence. She was 43 years old and had negotiated peace treaties in human wars for decades. She understood power, fear, and how to change people's minds. "Honorable counselors," she said, "you have a choice. You can fight this change and lose everything, or you can join us and build something better." "You are destroying everything," Admiral Kethix accused. "Millions of years of stability gone in months." "You call it stability," Park Si replied. "We call it oppression. You have kept entire species as slaves and called it civilization." The truth was devastating because it was simple. The Council had built their power on lies, secrets, and artificial scarcity. When humans offered knowledge, medicine, and technology freely, the entire system collapsed. But the real shock came when the Council tried to fight back. The first military engagement happened at Beta Sector, where human-supported rebels had taken control of 3-star systems. Admiral Kethix led a massive fleet to retake the systems and teach the galaxy that the Council still had power. The battle lasted 4 hours. Human Admiral Li Chang commanded the rebel defense with only 30 ships against Kethix's 300. The numbers should have made victory impossible, but humans did not fight like other species. They did not line up in formation and trade shots until someone gave up. They moved like schools of fish, appearing and disappearing across the battlefield. They used the environment as a weapon, turning asteroids into missiles and planets into shields. Most shocking was their coordination. Every human pilot seemed to know what every other pilot was thinking. They moved together like parts of a single organism, each ship covering the others, each captain anticipating what their allies needed. When the battle ended, Admiral Kethix's fleet was scattered and broken. Half his ships were captured, not destroyed. The human Admiral Li Chang had won the most important battle in galactic history without killing a single enemy soldier. "Surrender," Li Chang broadcast to the surviving Council ships. "We do not want to hurt you. We want to free you." The surrender was broadcast across the galaxy. The Council's most powerful fleet had been defeated by humans using tactics no one understood. But more importantly, the humans offered mercy to their enemies instead of revenge. Within days, Council fleets across the galaxy began defecting to the human-led alliance. Not because they were afraid of being defeated, but because they were amazed by being offered partnership instead of conquest. Commander Veltar sat in his command ship, reading reports that made no sense. Human Commander Parkia had captured his home system without firing a shot. Instead of invasion, she had offered trade agreements, medical aid, and educational exchanges. "Sir," Captain Nixall reported, "our people are celebrating in the streets. They say the humans have brought prosperity and freedom." Veltar felt something he had never experienced before: hope. For 3,000 years he had watched humans develop. He had feared they would become conquerors like every other powerful species. Instead, they had become something the galaxy had never seen. They were powerful enough to conquer anyone, but instead they chose to heal, teach, and share. The war was ending not with destruction, but with transformation. The humans had not just defeated the Council, they had shown the galaxy a better way to live. And in the deepest chambers of the galactic capital, the most powerful beings in known space realized they were no longer the most powerful. The humans had surpassed them in every way that mattered. The only question now was what the humans would do with that power. Captain Song-wook was not supposed to be in Rigel space. His exploration ship Harmony was supposed to be mapping empty star systems near human colonies. Instead, he had followed strange energy readings deeper into space than any human had gone before. His crew of 15 trusted him completely, even when he made decisions that seemed crazy. Song-wook was 38 years old and had been exploring dangerous places his whole life. Before space travel, he had explored deep oceans and high mountains on Earth. He could not stop himself from investigating anything unusual or mysterious. "Captain," his science officer called from her station, "I'm reading multiple ships ahead. They're not human designs." Song-wook looked at the screen. 3 ships hung in space near a small planet. They were sleek and silver, with curves that seemed to flow like water. They were beautiful in a way that human ships were not. "Are their weapons powered?" Song-wook asked. "No, sir. They seem to be waiting." Song-wook made a decision that would change galactic history forever. Instead of running away or attacking, he ordered his crew to try talking to the alien ships. "Send a mathematical sequence," he said. "Start with prime numbers." The response came within minutes. The alien ships sent back the same sequence, then added more complex mathematics. Within an hour, the 2 groups were having a real conversation using numbers and simple pictures. Commander Thekran watched from his flagship with amazement. His patrol ships had been discovered by humans, but instead of fear or aggression, the humans showed curiosity and intelligence. They learned his people's mathematical language faster than should be possible. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "the humans are asking to meet us in person." Thekran felt a chill of fear and excitement. First contact with humans was happening here. Now, because of an accident, the Council had not planned for this. There were no protocols for dealing with humans who appeared out of nowhere and immediately wanted to talk. The meeting took place on the small planet below. Both sides chose representatives who seemed peaceful and smart. Song-wook brought his best scientists and linguists. Thekran brought his most experienced diplomats. The humans landed first. They built a simple shelter and waited. When the alien shuttle landed nearby, Song-wook walked out to meet them alone and unarmed. Thekran was surprised by how small the human looked. Song-wook was tall for a human, but still much shorter than most galactic species. He looked fragile, with no natural armor or weapons, but his eyes were bright with intelligence and curiosity. "Hello," Song-wook said in his own language, then repeated it using the mathematical symbols they had shared. "Hello," Thekran replied, struggling with human sounds. Within days, news of first contact spread across the galaxy. The Council called emergency sessions. Species that had existed for millions of years suddenly felt nervous about the new arrivals. The human delegation arrived at the galactic capital 3 months later. Ambassador Kim Dae led a team of Earth's best scientists, diplomats, and thinkers. They came in a ship that moved faster and more efficiently than anything the Council had ever seen. Kim Dae was 52 years old and had spent his life solving problems between different groups of people. He was calm and patient, but also very smart. He could read people quickly and understand what they really wanted. The galactic capital was a massive space station that had been built over thousands of years. It housed representatives from hundreds of species. When the human ship docked, every being on the station came to watch. Dr. Park Jin was the first human to step onto the station. She was a physicist who had helped develop human space travel. She looked around at the alien architecture with wonder and immediately started taking notes. Lee Seo followed her. He was a language expert who had already started learning 17 different alien languages during the journey to the capital. His brain worked so fast that aliens watching thought he might be some kind of computer. The formal meeting took place in the council chamber. Hundreds of alien representatives sat in a vast circular room. At the center, a small platform waited for the human delegation. Ambassador Kim Dae walked to the platform with confidence. He was not intimidated by the size of the chamber or the strangeness of the beings watching him. He had prepared for this moment his entire life. Honorable representatives, he began, his words translated into dozens of languages simultaneously. We come from Earth as friends and equals. We seek knowledge, friendship, and peaceful cooperation. The chamber remained silent. This was not how first contact usually went. Most new species were humble, grateful to be noticed by the older galactic powers. The humans spoke like they belonged here, like they were joining a community of equals rather than begging for acceptance. Dr. Choi Min stepped forward when it was time to demonstrate human technology. She was 36 years old and one of Earth's brightest scientists. She had been chosen to show the Council what humans had achieved. We have brought gifts of knowledge, she said, activating a holographic display. The aliens watched in growing amazement as Dr. Choi Min showed human achievements. Medical technology that could regrow lost limbs, computers that could think and create like living beings, energy systems that produced no waste or pollution. But the real shock came when she demonstrated human weapons technology. We do not like to fight, Dr. Choi Min said softly, but we have learned to defend ourselves. The hologram showed weapons that could crack planets, shields that could stop any known energy beam, and ships that could appear anywhere in the galaxy instantly. The technology was clean, efficient, and terrifying. The Council chamber fell completely silent. These weapons were beyond anything in the galactic database. Some species had worked for millions of years and never developed technology this advanced. The humans had done it in a few thousand years, completely alone without any guidance. Admiral Kethix rose from his seat. He was one of the most powerful military leaders in the galaxy, commander of fleets that had conquered entire star systems. How? He asked. How did you develop these technologies so quickly? Dr. Park Jin answered. We had to. Our world is dangerous and we learned to survive by solving problems quickly. We never stopped asking questions or trying new ideas. What questions? Asked Dr. Morgan, the Council's expert on alien species. Lee Seo smiled. We want to know everything. How do you live? How do you think? What have you discovered? What problems need solving? Why do you watch younger species instead of helping them? The last question hit the chamber like a shockwave. The humans knew about the Watchers. They knew about the secret observation posts. They knew that the Council had been manipulating the development of younger civilizations for thousands of years. Who told you this? Commander Veltar demanded. Ambassador Kim Dae remained calm. We figured it out ourselves. We found your hidden stations. We studied your technology. We saw the patterns and how different species developed. The truth was devastating. The Council had spent enormous resources hiding their activities from primitive species. They had protocols, safeguards, and entire departments dedicated to staying secret. The humans had discovered everything in just a few years. Worse, the humans had broadcast their findings to other young species across the galaxy. Worlds that had been under Council control for generations were asking new questions, demanding answers. As the session ended, the assembled representatives sat in stunned silence. They had welcomed the humans as primitive newcomers. Instead, they had met their equals, or perhaps their superiors. The galaxy would never be the same. The war ended on a Wednesday, not with explosions or surrender ceremonies, but with a simple meeting in the Council chambers. The most powerful beings in the galaxy sat in their ancient seats, looking at a young human woman who held their future in her hands. Ambassador Song Ha was 29 years old. She had grown up in a small farming village on Earth and had never dreamed she would speak for all humanity. She was quiet and thoughtful, but when she spoke, everyone listened. The fighting stops now, she said simply. All of it. Everywhere. The chamber was silent. These beings had ruled the galaxy for millions of years. They had commanded fleets that could destroy star systems. They had decided the fate of countless worlds and species. Now they waited for a human barely past childhood to tell them what came next. What are your terms? Asked Elder Morthak, the oldest being in the galaxy. Song Ha smiled. There are no terms. There is no surrender. There is no conquest. There is only choice. This was not how wars ended. Throughout galactic history, the winners took everything and the losers became slaves or died. Song Ha was offering something that had never existed before. Partnership. You can keep your worlds, your people, your cultures, Song Ha continued. All we ask is that you stop hurting others. Stop keeping knowledge secret. Stop using fear to control people. Help us build something better. Admiral Cathix, whose fleets had been defeated by humans, stood slowly. And if we refuse? Then you refuse, Song Ha replied. We will not force you. We will simply ignore you and help everyone who wants our help. The threat was gentle but absolute. The humans would not conquer the council. They would make the council irrelevant. They would offer better leadership to anyone who wanted it, and eventually, no one would follow the old rulers anymore. Dr. Park Hyun stood on the observation deck of New Geneva Station, the first human-built capital in space. Through the transparent walls, he could see ships from hundreds of worlds working together on projects that would have been impossible under the old system. He was 63 years old now, with gray hair and lines around his eyes. His equations had started humanity's journey to the stars 35 years ago. Now he watched as his people transformed the galaxy. The changes were everywhere. Medical stations provided free treatment to anyone who needed it. Schools taught alien children alongside human students. Trade fleets carried goods and knowledge to the farthest corners of space. But the most important change was harder to see. It was in the way people looked at each other, the way they talked about the future, the way they worked together on problems that had seemed impossible to solve. Kim Mira, the pilot who had accidentally made first contact, now commanded a fleet of exploration ships. She was 54 years old and still could not sit still when there were new places to explore. Captain, her science officer reported, we're receiving signals from the Andromeda Galaxy. Someone out there is trying to talk to us. Kim Mira grinned. Plot a course. Let's go say hello. This was what humans did. They found new problems and solved them. They met new people and made friends with them. They saw empty spaces and filled them with life and hope. The Commonwealth had replaced the old council, but it worked completely differently. Instead of a few powerful species making decisions for everyone, representatives from every world had equal voices. Instead of keeping knowledge secret, everything was shared freely. Dr. Kim Na ran the Commonwealth Medical Service from her headquarters on Terra Station. She was 43 years old and had spent 15 years curing diseases that the old council had used to control people. Doctor, her assistant reported, the hegemony plague is officially extinct. The last infected patient was cured this morning. Kimna felt tears in her eyes. Billions of beings had died from that plague over the centuries. Now it was gone forever, remembered only in medical textbooks as a reminder of what ignorance and cruelty could do. But the real victory was not the cure. It was the thousands of alien doctors who now knew how to cure it themselves. Knowledge that had once been hoarded by the few was now shared by everyone. The economic changes were just as dramatic. Human trader Kang Ho had become the Commonwealth's Minister of Trade, but his job was very different from the old trade masters. Instead of controlling prices and supply, he helped worlds trade fairly and efficiently. The Rigel system wants to trade their artwork for Centauri medical supplies, his staff reported. Both sides think they're getting the better deal. This was how trade should work, Kang Ho thought. Everyone should benefit. No one should get rich while others stayed poor. The galaxy had enough resources for everyone if they were shared wisely. Commander Veltar walked through the corridors of his ship, now flying under Commonwealth colors. His crew was mixed. Humans, hegemony, council species, and rebels from dozens of worlds. They worked together like they had always been friends. Sir, Captain Nixall called. She was now his second in command and one of his closest advisors. We're approaching the outer rim. The colony ships are ready to depart. Veltar nodded. They were part of the Great Expansion, the Commonwealth's project to settle empty worlds throughout the galaxy. Not conquest, settlement. Anyone could join and everyone would share in whatever they built together. He thought about the reports he had written during the long years of watching Earth. He had warned that humans would be dangerous, that they would upset the galactic order, that they could not be controlled. He had been completely right and completely wrong. Humans had upset the galactic order. They had replaced oppression with freedom. They could not be controlled because they controlled themselves. They were dangerous to ignorance, cruelty, and despair. Ambassador Song Ha, now the Commonwealth's first president, gave her annual address from the new capital. Representatives from 3,000 worlds listened as she talked about the year's achievements and the challenges ahead. We have ended hunger on 400 worlds, she reported. We have cured diseases that killed for centuries. We have opened schools on planets where children never learned to read. We have brought peace to systems that had known only war. The audience applauded, but Song Ha was not finished. But our greatest achievement is not what we have done. It is what we have learned to do together. Humans did not save the galaxy. We all saved each other. This was the truth that had taken the galaxy by surprise. Humans were not superior to other species. They were just different. They shared knowledge instead of hoarding it. They offered partnership instead of demanding submission. They saw problems as puzzles to solve rather than reasons to give up. When humans finally showed up, the galaxy fell silent. Not from fear, but from amazement. For the first time in millions of years, the future looked brighter than the past. In the outer spiral of the galaxy, human explorer Kim Yu detected signals from an unknown species. They seemed primitive, barely capable of radio communication. Under the old system, they would have been watched and controlled. Kim Yu opened a channel and sent a simple mathematical greeting. The response came quickly, the same sequence followed by what sounded like excitement. "Hello," Kim Yu transmitted in the universal mathematical language. "Hello," came the reply, filled with joy and wonder. Another species was taking its first steps toward the stars, and when they were ready, the Commonwealth would be there to welcome them as friends and equals. The galaxy was no longer silent. It hummed with the sound of millions of voices working together, learning together, growing together toward a future that had no limits. And it all started because one day, humans finally showed up.